flight attendant.
I make up you.
Masa ada tidur, rasa muka je.
Ini apa ni launch? Okay, sorry. Ni siapa yang nak share screen dulu ni?
I tukar shawl.
Ada share dah. Ada check dah.
Okay, I cannot share screen. Oh, you are sharing your screen now. Okay, alright. Apalah. I'm nervous.
Moderator, you may start the session now. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Architect Mumtazah and I'll be your moderator for this afternoon's flight. On behalf of PAM Airlines, the captain and the entire crew, we welcome on board flight PX2272 from ACG to MyCG. Our flight time will be of 1 hour and 30 minutes. At this time, make sure your seat backs and screens are in their full upright position and your eyes are correctly fastened to the screen. During the opening slide earlier, the rules and guidelines of attending this flight, attendance policy, and CPD points have been presented. Please take note, your cabin crew are here to ensure that you have an enjoyable flight to MyCG today. Let us start with God's blessing that this flight session will fly smoothly and successfully, and that all will benefit greatly. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Cabin crew, please prepare for gate departure. Ladies and gentlemen, for your comfort, all participants are kindly requested to refrain from switching on your microphones during our panelists' brief presentation. However, throughout the flight, should you wish to participate in the dialogue, kindly raise your hand or alert us in the chat box, and the host will then invite you. The sign code is now out for you to fill in. We can only invite additional 3 passengers into our flight for the dialogue session. During the dialogue, our chat session, the invited guests need to switch on your videos and unmute your microphones and make sure you do not have any noisy backgrounds so that we can hear you loud and clear. For the rest of the participants, if you have any questions about your topic, our topic and our flight today, please do not hesitate to express your thoughts and your questions in the Q&A box, and we will try as best as we can to reply. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking off shortly. Please make sure that your eyes and ears are securely fastened to the screen. Thank you. For your enjoyment during our flight this afternoon, we have ready for you our session on demand about the pandemic. This is a participative dialogue session to initiate the making of Malaysian-owned COVID-19 pandemic resilient guidelines for the built environment. The guidelines are to assist you in making informed decisions in planning and design of the built environment. Both panelists will discuss towards identifying priorities among the guidelines. So interest participants may register to pursue the making of these guidelines to implementation stages. You can join us. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our first panelist, Datin Sri Architect Dr. Norwina Mohd Nawawi. She graduated with a degree from UTM, Masters from Polytechnic of North London, and PhD from IIUM. She is a registered architect and health facility planner with over 25 years of experience with PWD and MOH prior to joining IIUM as associate professor. She holds various positions in PAM, Union of International Architects, UIA, Asian Council of Architects, Acacia, and CIDB. She writes really well and does researches in both architecture and healthcare works and do a lot of CSR. Our second panelist is architect Mustapha Kamal Zulkarnain, graduated from Auckland University and has been practicing for the past 27 years and is a fellow member of PAM. He has delivered papers and attended various conferences, symposiums, and seminars that touched on resiliency, including the REBA conference in London, urban renewal in Singapore, and as panels for Urban Thinkers Campus under the UN Habitat in Hong Kong, Bangladesh, and Kuching, Malaysia, as well as Asli. He too sits in the Big L Committee for KL Low Carbon Society Blueprint, KL Competitive City, and also Cool Design Group. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, PAM Virgin flight to MyCG was on 12 December 2020. And we had panelists from Acacia, such as architect Tony Wong and architect Dr. Tana Chirapiwat to deliver the ACG documents to Malaysia. So, where do we go from here? Datin, the flight is yours, and you may share your screen. You have 15 minutes to fly.
Oh, hang on. Oops. Where is the spot? I'm searching for the shared button as usual. But now I can find it. But now, wait a minute.
Yeah. We're on flight mode, Datin.
Yes,
We need
yes,
the captain here.
Captain, help me. No, what?
We're not in turbulence yet.
Yes, hang on. Now we have all the other things that's coming out on the screen. Oh, yeah, yes, shared. Okay, right, yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well.
Here we go on. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Sorry about the glitch. Okay, that's usually on flight. And I think being a very warm afternoon today, it takes some guts to come up and able to speak without dry mouth. Okay, so I'm carrying forward what Architect Moom has said about the passing of the baton from Acacia to Malaysia or to PAM. And what I'm showing here is giving you back the history of how we actually work on the guidelines before going through to what we have done after we have received the baton. So it's basically from SG to Malaysia. So how it all started and so on. Okay. You can see the declaration. So the declaration of the pandemic, which is what we had last year, was in 30th January. I think more or less we were not very clear what was all about. But the thing is, after that, a lot of organization produce their own guidelines when we have this lockdown on the 18th of March. Okay. And so but we find that, as architect, what are we doing? What is it that we can do without feeling helpless? Okay. So what I'll show you the next slide is that in Malaysia itself, okay, in Malaysia, I remember with Architect Mohd and said, what do we do? So and Architect Mohd says, okay, we have this requirement by Mercy Malaysia to work something to help the government, and that's how we work on the field hospital very quick competition, and then we work. Then after that we do webinars to show the development that has actually gone within our purview of as architect in PAM itself, and of course it includes like checklist of quarantine centers. We do volunteers, and alhamdulillah we also managed to get DG on our screen. But on the other side, internationally, okay, being part of the committee of Acacia in terms of social responsibility committee, we have emergency architects director, which is Tony Wong, which Architect Moon mentioned, says, hey, what is ACSR doing? We have this pandemic, everybody's clocking down. We know we had so much problems out there. Can we get something done? How can architects do something? So he actually work out together. So we actually do a task force within Acacia itself, we conduct a survey. So actually, we give out questionnaire to all the 21 institute. So for those who have no idea what ACASIA is, it's basically is architect, regional architect of Asia, a council of Asia. So these members are 21 countries, and we meet every year, and then we also meet twice a year for a conference or congress. But we have the task is mostly towards Asian architects in Asia and Asia, because we always have to compare with what the West will provide may not be what we need. Okay, so with this with the survey, we came out we evaluate them, and we find that there's a lot of criteria that was brought up by the architects, and we said why not we do a guidelines to help. Of course, it takes us about 7 months from May. We start May until November, where we pass the baton to Pam. But a lot of hurdle also we meet because the different culture, the different timeline, the different needs are making happen throughout the different countries. So what we try to do is to establish guidelines for architects, the public, and also policymakers. And we only bring up salient issues, okay, that is that we can actually is achievable, and we have to also recognize our limitations. So we can't do anything to do on economics or practice. So we scope to a certain point, and we get it verified, and validated through experts from international panels. And one of the experts is our own a medical doctor from Sungai Buloh Hospital, Dr. Suresh. So he is renowned for infectious disease. So we get him on board to help us. Okay, the next. So this is the outcome of the 7 months, which is the 13 ACGs or 13 ACASIA COVID-19 guidelines. Of course, when we produce this guideline, it's basically, of course, it was meant for COVID-19, and we know COVID-19 is spread through droplets and airborne. So it's between air droplets and airborne, which is actually the highest way or the simplest way of spreading, and it's about respiratory. And a human being, if you are weak in respiratory, just like if you go to emergency, if you are having problem with breathing, you have to go to the highest, and which is the red zone. Okay, so it is critical. So if you have other diseases, it's of course chronic, but if it's not respiratory related, it may not be that in emergency. So this 13 guideline, even though it's meant for we start with COVID-19, it's also meant for other kind of pandemics. Okay, I will not go into detail on this, but okay, so here we talk about the principle of managing this pandemic. So we talk about the spread. So again, like what DG mentioned in our webinar, then you have to know your enemy. Okay, so the enemy is about the virus. So you have to know those. Then only you can actually create environment to provide the necessary maintenance. Okay, so here the guideline is what maintaining the basic level of human activities to live, work, pray, learn, and so on. And of course, by doing that, we may have impact on economic as well. Okay, right. And of course, we said we have to recognize our limitation. We are not medical doctors. We don't know what are the new sciences that's coming up. So what we can do what within our jurisdiction. Okay. All right. So as the 13 ACGs is also classified for architects, public policymakers, and so on, and it goes beyond the building typology. So it has in between spaces and so on. Okay. This is 13 SDGs, and there is a guide here, which you can actually, a QR code where you can download the guidelines, which you can give to the Secretariat also. It's already being published. Okay, but I will not explain everything here, but maybe later on when you have questions, we can bring it back. So the roadmap, this is what Architect Moom has mentioned. Okay, that after we get the baton, so we had actually work out on the time or the roadmap. So at the moment, this blue or greenish color background is where we are. This is in between. So we have done the kickoff, but we have this formation of pro-tem team, which we are the pro-tem team, and then we are now looking. Actually, we're still formatting the organization, but in the meantime, we have also make some compilation. But we need people to actually help us in actually deciphering them to make it as a local requirement. So doing this, we are compiling and evaluating at the same time. So it's back and forth. So that's actually where we are now, and then where are we going? So that's what we are informing. So to all of you, so that if you want to join us or you want to contribute to be part of this journey together, you're welcome. Okay. All right. So here in the strategy that we have created, we have already received the 13 SDGs as a framework for Asia, and we have and being part of the team in the Asian level, we know that we cannot one size cannot fit all. So it has to be localized to the requirement of the country itself. So you can see here in the center the requirements. We are not going to reinvent unless it's necessary. We already have guideline. We have uniform building. Uniform building regulations, bylaws. We have standards. We have all the acts and so on. So we need to review those and see what best. Okay. All right. So you can see that we have done a lot of homework trying to localize what is ACG from Acacia to Malaysian ACG. So this is incorporating what we normally do with the industry. So it's still not fully we call it cast in stone as yet, but that's how we works. So how we work is we based on the pandemic emergency management approach, and we have this modus operandi of creating, and of course the PAM actions here is that the 15 action that we have identified earlier. And of course, the regulation is the one that is looking into this. Okay, so this is basically how we see it in its structure. So we use the pandemic management where about this when in terms of disaster, we want to control. So health and well-being has to be the top key, and you can see the rest how it is brought down. And you can see the where we are mostly involved will be on the creation, which is implementation. So that's where the built environment categories come in. But the rest we also have a say in that. I think also in our during the webinar with DG, she also mentioned about us being the think tank of the nation. So we would like to leverage on that a proposal by DG so that we can have a say in our well-being, built environment well-being. So just to show you the amount of work that has been done, but you can still have a review of this. Okay? So I will not go through this process too much. So here maybe Architect Moose will elaborate further. All right. So what's happening now in Malaysia? Of course, we have done many MCOs. Now we are during the third wave, and people are still doing what they need to do since. But there is no guideline. So again, we need the guideline. So even though you said, or some people say that, hey, we are getting the vaccine, but that vaccine is not going to be the end. Okay, so we still need to live. And I remember we said just now that it is an airborne or air droplets, just something like also like TB is there in the country, is still around. Okay, we still have to
Live with it.
live with that. Okay, so this is where we like to see whether you could accommodate or you could come and collaborate with us. Okay, either at the top where we are still doing the as a pro-tem team, and then of course in the committee, the subcommittees that we will be forming to contribute ideas. Okay, all right. So where are we all going? It's actually meant for all pandemic, not just for COVID-19. So let's contribute to make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Datin, for that informative presentation. So that was a short history of ACG, to MyCG and the things that have been going on in between. So, Architect Mustapha, what do you have to say on this matter?
Okay, we already got a baton from 21 Asia countries, right? So now we need to localize the thing. So when we are localizing, we got a problem that we need to actually handle. I remember last year when we were on the first lockdown, then everybody started becoming uneasy because it was almost 6 weeks without going to work, without going anywhere. And they wanted the government to open up. So it started almost in May when they wanted to open up the businesses. So as a result of opening up businesses or opening up office or opening up any fraternity, there must be guidelines or there must be SOPs. Nobody is doing SOPs. Nobody has ever done a SOP except for doctors or medical when they are doing disaster. If you are in Mercy, you may have got some experience on the SOP, but nobody has done SOP on this scale that involves 30 million people, that involve what? The whole business people, the whole factory, the whole hospital, the whole, how should I say, economic machinery. So what happens is there's no expertise. Everybody is learning by day. So lucky that we got the MKN. So that's at the top, if that just now Datin's slides, where the health and well-being of you is actually the utmost pinnacle. That's so that we are in parallel with the government. We are not going against it. I mean to say that we're not saying that it has to be the built environment at the top. No. It is the health and well-being of you at the top. Then from there, it all goes down. So basically, later when almost the end, I have a story that culminate the whole 1 to 15, so that it's actually a connected story. So that's actually our storyline that we're going to relate to the whole nation, to the whole country, so that we understand why we are in. And mind you, this is only for built environment. We don't want to talk about financial because that's not our expertise. Our expertise is built environment because it involves a lot of people. Your house, your office, your transportation, that's your everyday thing, right? So these are the things that is going to be touched. So if Datin could show just now, yeah, that one, the slide that has got that black thing at the bottom there just before the table. Okay. In our built environment in Malaysia, just to get everybody, since I think most of us around here are actually architects. So if you look at that top, there is actually about disaster, right? I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, the next slide, Datin. Okay, the next slide. If you look, okay, the next slide. If you look at number 11, where they create it, the word create, right? The number 11 there. Number 11, built environment, is still the ACG number 11. It's still correct. It's still the same thing. But we got to localize it to us. And just now Datin showed a lot, all the, if you were to take part 3, right, you are given the thick book that goes all your building construction, your design, whatever, land code. So it involves that. But we are not going to reinvent the wheel. So to us, we found out that the UBBL, or the Street Road and Drainage Act, is actually the common denominator that actually transcends the whole built environment. Whether a planner, architect, engineer, local authority, the government, the HDA, everything refers to that document. Even they want to fine you or penalize you, anything, it goes back to the Street Road, Street and Drainage Act. So our guidelines now will be in the sense that there will be 4 or 5 different categories of people, stakeholders will be using it, the government. They are the ones who give the policies. Then you got the building owner, can be a developer, private, or it can be a government developer, correct? So there will be two sides of the coin there. Then you got the professionals, which is us, the designers, I call it. You know, it includes architects, engineers, landscape people, town planners, urban designer, or even the ID. Then the person who built it, the contractor, then the public, who is actually the one at the end using it. So these are the stakeholders that involve. But of course, when we build, the UBBL states there are about 9 odd categories, like the small residential, institutional, other residential, office, shop, factory, place of assembly, storage, and general. But we are including one more, which is very crucial to us, which is built environment, which is the one that is actually the temporal spaces, like public open space, pasar malam, your apa tu, food truck,
workers
quarters.
quarters. That's right. Yeah.
So these are the things that we will be governing, and we are making sure that we are covering all this. But then, when we are localizing, we cannot just think about the future. There are buildings that's already here. So that's the reason why there is these 2 categories of conditions: existing construction and also new construction. So existing, you need to modify, you need to adapt, you need to adopt, you need to do adaptive thing. You got to rehatch here and there. New things easy. These are new guidelines you got to follow. So this, for now, I stop here. But this is actually how we are going to actually assist not just somebody else, but assist us also, because I know some of you here have done buildings that we do not know how they handle. Like for instance, airports, how should I say, train stations, office. There are many kinds of office: tower office, shop office, horizontal office, or even the factory office. So these are the things that we need to, because the government, when they do SOP, they don't have people. They simply say, okay, remember the Chinese New Year, they came up with 2 types of SOP for Chinese New Year within the short span of 12 hours. Because at the end of the day, they give to the Jabatan Perpaduan Negara to handle the SOP. So these are the things that we, as a proactive, we have first, because we know this is our expertise. Okay, so I think I stop there first. Datin and Mum, I will fly.
How important really this MyCG to Malaysia and to public in general? How important? How can they benefit this to the people?
I think Datin.
Maybe just to add highlight, I think what I mentioned again when the ACG was formed, it's about how to carry on living, live, play, and as normal as possible. So with this guideline, and now we have experience going through the whole pandemic and see what works, what doesn't work. Okay, and of course we have expert opinion coming in, so we could more or less foresee. Again, it is not a foolproof, but it is something that can elevate or prevention. So remember, there's we just take for example sensitive problem like religious places have to close. When you never done that in our lifetime or in how many 100 years, for example, and you have to do it. And you can see in the WhatsApp group a lot of things going and forward. But so how can we as a both environment professionals assess in making sure that even in future, if we have this kind of panic, things can still run. Okay, it could be of course schools, not only just that, even your own home. All right, especially you're just living in flats, and then you are confined in just a 3-room house with all these things. So how do you get it? How do you actually resolve things? So a lot of things being said in word kind of a thing, even in ACG. So now we have to translate that in our local scenario to see it works. And even in Malaysia itself, you may have other parts within geographically different, climatic, more or less, and of course culturally as well, that
Do you
can
see-
address it.
Sorry.
Most.
That's
It's okay.
Maybe I think for the benefit of our 20 odd people here, right?
Yeah.
I think if we are going to, how should I say, suggest something for them to work with us, right? I think if you could just give us a 2-liner thing about what were the 13 ACGs in Acacia, then at least the people here can understand what it means, all these 13 things. Because you saw 15. So what does that 13 entails? Yeah, this
Okay,
yeah. So,
Yeah. Show us the 13 ACG.
Okay, what I could do here, let's just go out of here. Hang on.
so while Datin does that, so again, the whole nation is actually looking at us. That's why DG always call us to actually see the government wants us to open. How can you help me? Something like that. So this is where they are actually asking us for help. Okay, so Datin.
Yeah. Okay. I realize it's very small. Is that I can make it bigger? Just hang on. This is a PDF slides. All right. So it has 13, and then okay, the first one was in ACG. We're not talking about my ACG. It's about space planning. Okay, so you can see within space planning itself. I don't know how to reduce this one and make it.
Just the paragraph yang bawah dia je.
Okay,
So that
all
people
right. Okay, I will just go very quickly out there. So it's configure living or working spaces to prevent the entry of contaminant, facilitate separation and social distancing with spaces, allow as required surveillance, and reduce anxiety. So it's a nutshell. It has a lot of important stress there. It's about how to configure the spaces, whether it's new or existing. Okay, so if you go deeply on the requirement, so it talks about short term and long term also. So all these have short term and long term. So anything is short term is now you can do adaptive review, but long term is something that your private talking about for the future. Okay, so this guideline can be actually downloaded. I can put that in the chat box also for them who wants to look.
Then you go for the ACG2.
Okay, ACG2. Just might go through. So ACG2 is about building technology. Okay, it's about adopting appropriate and authorized building technologies to avoid the spread of virus or any contaminant through the building system. And we talk about building system, it can be, of course, it has a long way. Ventilation system is the main thing because it's for airborne. And there was also during SARS a problem in Hong Kong about I think they used a dry riser kind of plumbing system. So they brought in also the drain system. Okay, and of course.
And to add on to that, to add on to building technology, you know, like right now our lift, right, they will go by weight, right? The moment it hit 2,000 kilogram, it buzz. But now with this COVID-19, maybe when the fifth person come in, the lift will buzz. So it got that sensor to tell you that it's already more than enough people inside the lift. So these are the things that we're looking at.
Okay. Yes. Datin Datin and Architect Mus, we have a question here.
Yeah.
Would this also cover for disaster management situation, i.e., floods, fire, etc., or has this not have been implemented in Malaysia?
Okay, I think we'll go back to history again. Why we have the UVVL? It's all we'll talk about sanitation. So it's again go back to health itself. Okay, when you talk about fire, yes, it's about safety. But fire again, it is already incorporated in the bylaw. But the occurrence of fire again, I think this is what we call a pandemic. It is part of emergency. It's also part of this. So we are using the emergency methodology to actually create a strategy to work on this. But if you say compared to why have we not incorporated it in the existing building, we have, but perhaps this one bring up a bit more
related to pandemic.
Yes. Like for example, in bylaw, you talk about how many percent of ventilation that has to be natural ventilation has to be within
a room,
the room, especially habitable room.
Yeah.
And then about lighting, about sunlight.
Yeah.
All this. So it's like a wake up call again. You know, go back. Maybe you have not addressed that much. We are so much into technology that is what do you call that? you rely so much on the even on ventilation system as well. So perhaps we
Do
could
you
relook
do
at
you
that.
foresee that there could be, I somehow foresee that there could be a change in how we design. In fact, the way we design is going to change, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Datin?
yeah. Mm.
Isn't it, Mus?
In fact, right now, right, we
Yeah.
took it for granted. We took
Mm.
it everything for granted right now. Like for instance, we say that toilets, some rooms can actually be foregone for light of view or light and ventilation because it's not important. So the Wuhan report after the pandemic on the 100th day after they actually declared that they're already okay, they came out with a report, right? What happens is in the 1,000 bed hospital that they built in 10 days, the ventilation, not just ventilation, okay, cross ventilation and day lights, recuperated patients faster, and it shows that that way of medication works well. So what we are trying to suggest here is
Back
we
to
have to
nature.
go back to the principles of design. Even Christopher Alexander said in the rule number 64, you have to have room with two views or room with two sides. Why? So
Yes,
that
that's
you
true.
create cross ventilation. You create two ways of upper light and come in. So these are actually principles that I think we took it for granted. And I think that's probably what COVID is trying to tell us, to go back to the roots of design.
I
That
think
is
that
very,
too. It's not just about ventilation and light. I think it's about mental health as well, if I can say. Am I right?
Yeah.
Whereby, I mean, if you have a room with a view, I mean, your mental health would be a lot better than you have a room with no view, or something like that. This is all about health and well-being, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
at the pinnacle of things.
Yes, yes. Okay, so it is actually really, really important for us to incorporate this in our design. Now, we have a question from an anonymous attendee here. How exactly would you like us from private sectors, architects or builders to participate in this MyCG action? If there's interest, what is the platform we will work on this? You mean more for discussion or test on the guidelines?
Maybe Datin can show back the bar chart. Sorry, the
Pie
the
chart. Okay.
yeah, no, not the pie chart. The one that got the activities at the bottom too.
All right.
The organization chart.
Just let me do this part.
Sorry,
Organization.
Datin. You hold the screen.
Okay, never mind. I'm in charge. Okay, just like this is
To all ladies and gentlemen, should you want to ask any questions or have an interest or ideas, please do so. And if you'd like to have to be in our panelists, just raise your hands and we will invite you in so that we can have more people to chat in this group. Thank you. Continue on, Datin.
all right.
I think
Okay.
the one
This
before.
one.
Yeah, this one.
All right. We informed, I think, earlier that we have not gone far because we have just done more or less the kickoff and the compilation. We have not even have a time to grasp to actually evaluate or whatever we have compiled. We said we are not going to reinvent the wheel. Whatever is already within our system, we could enhance them. But what we need, maybe more hands and actually time to actually work at this. We can do quickly. I think what we did in the ACG in the Asia level is that we were given tasks to read at least 4 or 5 guidelines all over the world and see which one actually matches with Asia. So if we could have people who are interested to do this, because it's about voluntary. To actually give input, then you can actually come in even at the level of the full-time committee. We can have that as a research input, and also we can have that in the committee level, because under PAM committees we have, of course, we have urban well-being, we have even heritage, we have education, and so on. Or we could create perhaps a special group just to do this, because we put a timeline to complete before end of the year, just just the guideline, but we're not so sure that we could actually achieve in terms of getting it published and disseminated. But actually, whatever data we have, we will uh, try to be as open or as transparent so that more people actually can actually benefit from this. Maybe yeah.
Another way, just to add on to what Datin said,
Mm.
right? Another way, like for instance, here just now I was highlighting about the kinds and categories of building, right? There are people who actually know this building much well than us. Like for instance, schools. You know, for about a year, students don't go to school, but the classrooms are still there. So I think we need to have a guideline for existing school. How do you think the thing can help Ministry of Education to actually come out with the SOP for classes, to do face-to-face classes if needs to, or combination of hybrid between face-to-face and online. So these are the things that we need to help the government to resolve this problem, because for what, almost 11 months, the children, first they go to school in October, no, then cancel. Go to school in November, no, cancel. Go to school in January, cancel juga, only for the SPM people. So I think we need to actually have sort of a way to do, especially on the existing part, because there are a lot of existing building. Then another existing building that we see is also office. You know, now there are many spaces in office. What do we do? How do we handle that? Then we need to talk to the local government. Maybe they need to actually repurpose and also change the building use or the land use. So these are the things that we need to assist how to make this happen. And I think the professionals know, because we deal with this day in, day out. So whether you are professional as an architect or as a contractor, you may know how to handle, to do this sort of shifting of priorities from one use to another use. Do all this, we need input. Then we can start doing the flow, because one of the items later that Datin will show is one of the items in ACG is flow management. So these are the things.
Yeah.
But Datin will talk about number 3.
Adapting environment, yeah, I will do that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
If I may say, I know I'm only a moderator, but I can't help answering. It's a chat session, right? Okay. For those of you who are interested to join us, please call us at Pam. Please, the more the merrier. And then, and if you are non-architects, if you are from other private sectors or developers and everything, this is what we're doing now. We're trying to identify which particular topic that can be given to a particular group of people or group of professionals, because we can't have everyone covering everything. So we will have to split up the roles, split up the scope, and we will share. And for example, if you're an engineer, we will give you a topic which is specifically related to engineering, perhaps like infrastructure or some roads and parks or something. Or maybe if you're a mechanical engineer, we'll give you a topic really related to ventilation, perhaps. And then we'll start looking into it as we go along in detail. And remember that we are looking at not just an existing building, but also the future building. Am I right, Datin? Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Another way that we can have collaboration, which is, I think, going to be very positive, is, you know, I see here even some lecturers from universities, architecture school. I think within the university they got management school, then they got legal fraternity school or other. But how they can do this? These can become the studio projects. These can become their course papers, like for instance, management.
Exactly.
How do you handle things
Good idea.
in the pandemic or post-pandemic or even post-MCO, so that it is actually more creative. What we're looking here for is innovative, which is disruptive, which helps the nation. Because we are being called by the government to actually, how you all see, because the built environment is there, people see, people feel touched. How when we still use what is there, so the economy is still being generated, and we are not waiting for it to die off with the pandemic, then we start. No, we have to do parallelly together. We cannot just wait. So these are the things that you can actually work with your students, work with your lecturers, or you work with your fraternity, or work with your WhatsApp group. And maybe you have this new thing, young, especially young people, and they can also become a new app that's coming that they can build from this. It's open. It's an open-ended thing. So this thing is only just a roadmap. We have not make it as a, how should I say, a dead document. It's still a living document.
Okay. We have a question in the chat group, Sucharita Suranga. Thanks for this great sharing. To what extent are we ready to integrate the COVID-19 impact to architecture into the academic design studio projects, especially that we are currently in the early stage of developing the guidelines?
Okay. To tell you frankly,
as
throughout the whole world,
yeah, we just have to do it.
yeah, throughout the whole world, everybody is testing and trying.
Yeah, it's trial and
Testing
error.
and trying. Yeah,
Just like the
trial and error.
vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because okay, I got many friends in university, say in Indonesia, right? They're all testing and trying. They say, okay, how you think that we need to move forward? From our studio is like this. Okay, that's architecture studio. What about computer studio? You know, what about labs, the chemistry labs? How do you handle that? So there is no right or wrong. The COVID-19 is telling us this: rethink, reset your thinking to help the environment. And I think that's why at the pinnacle there is actually for our health and well-being.
I think health and being, and also the SOP. So I think if we follow that one, which is what's being always being informed by in our cell phone. Okay, so that you have to go in line. So even though your projects, if new projects coming in, you have to already insert that one. But again, it shouldn't be in. It should be flexible. Okay, so that you can use it for other things. You know, you have to be able to be used for other purposes as well. I think I've seen some design. I think by Veritas, which is we had a webinar about, I think, more than a few months back, where for like now you have deliveries coming to your home where you don't want them to come in, so there is a space that is provided like a transit, so you can actually deliver it outside, and then you can come and get it from that space in a high rise kind of apartment. So this improvisation that you have to put in that can be used for other things or other activity, but it can be changed to the use. For example, we talk about isolation. Okay, so there are rooms in your home that you may have at the annex bathroom, that if any one of the family members having the happen to able to get the disease, and you could actually have the alternative or the to actually place the person there. Okay. Now I think Mo, you have remember the bonus thing that you have put up in the thing about
Yeah.
we have the experience to that
Yeah.
phase of problems, so how we actually cope.
Correct.
Mo, we can
I
talk
do
about it more.
believe, okay, just for everyone's information, I was a positive COVID-19 patient before. That was just last month, January, and I'm still having the side effects. Not that much, just fatigue all the time. Even going up the stairs is quite tiring. Yeah? But all throughout, while I was really sick, Dan was being sent to Hospital Sungai Buloh. As an architect, you just can't stop thinking. You just can't stop thinking what's the best way to handle and your house. You quarantine, you have your other family members. How do you separate them? How do you distribute meals? I mean, if you have somebody else coming to the house, we even have I bet you by now you have your tissue or your sanitizers at the main entrance. Am I right? And then if possible, we would like to have something like macam rumah dulu-dulu where you already have the washer or a sink at the main entrance. please wash your hands before you're coming into the house. Or like in Rumah Kampung last time, please wash your
Feet.
feet. I mean, that is actually for health purposes. Yeah. You don't want people to come in with dirty feet into the house. So it's actually almost the same idea, but in a more modern environment. So I can say when you were very sick in your mind, okay, mentally it was really tiring, really tiring. On top of suddenly I have really high blood pressure, which goes up to 180. And I have not had asthma for 6 years, and suddenly on the spot, within just few hours, I had asthma constantly, which was really bad. And I was still at home. They were still trying to get the ambulance to pick us up. My whole children are all positive. My husband was already in the burn unit in Hospital Selayang, which is an equivalent to an ICU. So he's a category 4, almost going category 5. The intubation equipment was already right next to him for him to be intubated. But thank God he managed to avoid intubation, but they still had to put him to rest, to sleep for 3 days, so that his body is encouraged to fight the disease himself without any other medications. Because remember, there is no medication for COVID-19 yet. There is only a vaccine, but not a medication. So doctors only treat what you are facing. For example, if you are having cough, they treat you with cough medicine. If you are having your asthma, they treat you with the asthma medication. If you have your blood pressure go up, so they treat you with your apa ni, the Novas or your BP medication. But other than that, there is no specific medication. Those who go to the hospital Sungai Buloh will really have to be quarantined in their own room. Now, being quarantined in the hospital is another matter to look at, where the doctors, I don't see them sleeping, going around, rest. No, nobody rests except for the patients. Luckily, we were in our room. We're not allowed to go out from our room. There's myself, my children, and I, 3 of us. We were being isolated in a separate room. And the good thing about the design of the single room in Hospital Sungai Buloh, that it has an empty room. It has an empty room before the corridor. And that empty room is actually our communication space. So the nurses or the doctors will shout from outside and will shout from inside. Too bad there is no intercom. Really, my husband was just telling me that when he was in the burn unit in Hospital Selayang, he was in a room alone. Okay, and then there's only 2 medical personnel allowed to be in the burn unit, or if I can say in the ICU. So maximum only 3 person in a room allowed to be inside the room. So there are 3 doors. One door is for emergency. Second door is for entry only. The third door is for exit only. So when you exit,
management, yeah.
exactly. So it's one way in and one way out. So as for the patient, hopefully there's a way out. Okay, you don't want to end up being in the box. So there is actually a huge glass mirror where the medical personnel and the patients can see the other personnel in the other side of the room. So there will always be at least one person sitting or standing on the other side of the room observing the patients. And then they're looking at the patients and see if there's problem. But they are all, every one of them, whether they are entering or they're sitting there in that room, everyone has to wear a PPE. Even the cleaning lady who cleans my room actually wears full PPE. All our clothes was never taken out from the room. All are dumped into the laundry bag. Yeah, in the laundry bag. It is there. All our garbage was also compiled in one corner until we left the hospital. Then they start separating them, and then I don't know what happens because I left the hospital already. But everything will have to be sanitized, going into our room, going out of the room. Luckily, there's also a sink between our room in the empty room. So constantly, you have to constantly sanitize yourself. But you all experience that as you sanitize every day, your hands gets a bit dry and everything. So that's where you really have to look after yourself. But one wonderful thing about that room is that it has a huge window facing
Right.
the outside. And I think if there is no window, I don't know, I might go
Context.
wonky. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Claustrophobic.
Exactly, claustrophobic. You know, you are already suffering with your breathing. I'm only category 2, mind you. I'm only category 2, and I was already hurting with all the coughings that you're just constantly coughing all the time, and it really hurts your throat. Yeah, and then but having the window, at least when you are resting, you get to see outside, you get to see the birds flying, you get to see the traffic going in and out. You just get to wish that, oh, I wish I was in that car going out. You know, you get to see people walking, pushing the trolleys and everything. It was a big break. It was a big break. Those windows are a big break. Too bad we cannot open the window. As what one of the nurses was saying, please do not have openable windows in wards. And I was asking them why. Because people easily
Suicide.
can escape from the window, because they had situation whereby there are people escaping from the window. So anyway, that was a short experience. So I don't know. It was really, really, really scary for me. You don't want to be in that situation where you have to be quarantined because you're sick. Nobody comes to you, and then you're all alone, and you don't know where you're gonna go after that. Although it may seem mild, but it's I don't know. Somebody a doctor was telling me that once you have it, you have it. It may be sleeping inside your body or dying or dead, but the sheds are still in there, and it will slowly have a long-term effect on your body. So it is my duty now to look after this body. And I tell you, uh, nothing best to do during sick. The best thing to do when you're sick is doa, your prayers. Every day you just can't stop praying, hoping to God to extend your life in this body that God has pinjam to us. So it was really scary. So but that actually, as an architect, you started to see what's best in the design, what's best to do in the house, what's best to do in the hospital. Too bad when I was sick, I did not go to shopping mall so that at least I can see what we can do. But we all know, we all go to hospitals, we all go to shopping malls, we all go to shops, and people actually really adjust to it. So I think really, really, I don't know.
I guess to answer
Just to
Yeah.
the question just now, with
yeah.
what is it that we can? I mean,
Mm.
currently,
Mm.
before the guideline is out, can we do something? So I think yes, do whatever you think is the best to do. But if possible, you can get feedback, and then when we do this, it is much more, uh, not control. You still have to have the flexibility. It's actually, again, it's just a guideline. It's not mandatory. Okay? It's just a
Exactly.
guideline. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, as
Like
an
for
architect,
instance,
you can never stop thinking as an architect.
that one question here
Yeah.
from Siti Nurilla. Although
Yes.
the job of an architect is actually to facilitate whatever that being tasked to us, to design, to submit, to coordinate, and also to ensure that it get being built on site, right? But if
Yeah.
the local authority office is closed because they say it's actually COVID-19, it doesn't work. So because Mampu said our digital government works already since 2005. So what's stopping us from not moving forward, digitize everything? So this is the thing that we need to work with within ourselves, and we can inform the local government. This is how you handle if you need to do face-to-face meeting. This is how you handle when you have a group meeting. This is how you handle when you have a site meeting. So that's probably at the local authority level, because in some countries, like for instance, I would in one country, they actually stopped the COVID-19 within 3 weeks. It happened because any flights that land on the tarmac of that airport, the passengers don't go out. The doctors, one doctor, 2 nurses go to the aeroplane, inspect all these passengers on the plane. Anyone got problem, they cut this passenger out from the plane to the hospital without going through the terminal. So this is one way of stopping it. That means to say that no people touch the surface at the terminal, nobody touched even coming back from that plane. So
that's a bit too extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's how they handled it. And that with that handle, 3 weeks they did it. Now they are working as normal. And
SOP.
what they do,
That's
SOP di biasa.
the airline.
So you need to wear your mask. That's it. The only problem that they had was 3 months ago, a pilot that came in from somewhere and used the terminal and it was positive. So that was only a two. So now we need to understand that nothing is to be taken for granted. And what they say as stay safe, be safe is actually very, very crucial. So that's not to make people takut, tetapi we need to do that now to make sure that we can work to that level. You know, like New Zealand, like Taiwan, that's what they are handling now. They are having 12 hours lockdown, after that open. For us, it's 2 weeks, you know. So that's a different magnitude. So this is how they can handle it so well.
Maybe the building is actually designed for it. Yeah.
So to further going on, apart from just what we see with our eyes, right? Like for instance, now we can order food by Grab, but we saw some problems. At all the shops where all these Grab people, suddenly 20 Grabs come into the shop because of your orders, right? At lunchtime, dinner time, there's no place to park. So they just park anywhere. So I think this is one of the areas that we need to look at how to handle parking for these Grab people so that it doesn't become a nuisance. You know, like for instance, have you been to a McDonald's where you drive in and so there is this Grab people or Food Panda? Sometimes they crisscross. So these are the things that we need to handle. Another thing, I think ventilation is one of the key points to actually handle, both natural and mechanical. So we need smart elect here to handle, to make our buildings COVID-19 free with having natural ventilation. How restaurants can operate as normal because there's natural ventilation. How food outlets can operate in malls. We need some good brains here. So these are the things. The China people are rewriting all the HVAC textbooks. They say cannot use. I'm going to change. That's what they wrote in the report. We are going to rewrite. We are going to rewrite everything because luckily we are tropics. We are tropics. So we need to act tropic, and everybody now is going towards tropic. Open air food court, open air hotel lobbies, open air houses, open air hospitals at certain places. You need to do that. So these are the things that we need to think and certain simple things that you can do. You know, like I saw here a good friend of ours doing airport. So how can you do a open air airport? You know, you don't need to have air condition and still work. You have one in Indonesia, open air, international airport somewhere. It works. So we need to do that to our situation. I think Datin ada nak cakap tadi. Because the idea just
one moment, please. One moment, please. I think our captain has turned on the sign out code. So you may turn off the seatbelt and turn off the seatbelt sign, which means you can leave your seat now if you wish. But please stay on. We urge you to stay on and listen to us chatting here. And we want you to chat with us too. So hope you keep your seatbelts fastened and your eyes glued to the screen while you are seated. Okay? Yes, Datin. Your flight now.
My time to do. Okay, I think we've gone through this or rather the experience of having been locked down and until now. I think it's almost a year. This is going to be March, you see? It's almost a year now. And I'm
That's
sure,
right.
each of us have in our thoughts, what could have been better if we have designed it? What could we improve? Because I remember after we are able to go to the shopping mall, you have to come in one way and then you have to go out the same way. Now, I don't want to be, you may be meeting others who you don't know what they have. In fact, I was going to uh, Jaya Grocer. We will be holding you'll be picking up fruits, or will that be contamination? Everybody is and have and in the in the news, also in the WhatsApp, you get pictures of people wearing all kinds of a costume going out just to protect themselves. Why can't we be? Why can't we do something so that people can still live as they are? Of
Normally.
course, they still have to have the mask on, but able to be more firm. So I think like what Architect Mum has mentioned about her experience being a patient. So my own experience is being in a a close contact. I feel that my one of my children have it, and it just dawned on you. Oh no, we have to quarantine ourselves. I'll be safe. So uh, we what we say we check the flow again. So how is the flow? Then again, how is the condition of the room that we have in our homes? Are they able to take it? So luckily, I live in a bungalow area where you have ample space, so that space helps. So what about those people who can't, who doesn't have? Can we think how? Yeah, here we have to be so grateful to whatever we have in terms of making use of this thing that is required. So that distance, and then of course you still have the flow about rubbish, which you mentioned in hospital. You have it in the homes. How do we do that? So again, the hygiene. I think we once upon a time at school we learn about hygiene. Wash your hands. Or I think this one has to be inserted or be cultured in even in the home. So we need that to be done so that luckily, Alhamdulillah, for the whole 10 days, 14 days that we were quarantined, none of us have is positive. It's only one of my children who had it, but none of us have actually affected by him being in the house. So again, this hygiene and ventilation, and then again circulation within the house, and then of course the SOP of bagging everything, putting in, and then making sure that the room that the person is in can have some sort of a negative pressure. So again, how do you do that in a home? Now that the government says there's no more space in the hospital, you have to be quarantined at home. How you do that?
Exactly. It is. I believe I experienced that same way when we had to be quarantined at home. So luckily in my house, every room has its own bathroom. Yeah. But my bathroom was not working well. So I had to use my children's bathroom. So how do I cross the room? So what happened was that one way is for everybody to sleep downstairs and I sleep upstairs, crossing the room to go to the bathroom. So it's really, really crazy. And then when my children had to serve me food, so where are they going to put? They put on a chair outside the door. Okay. Or they put on the floor outside the door. So I pick it up. When I pick it up, I take it back to them. Will that be contaminated?
Yes.
Yeah. And my clothes and all of our clothes. So when my husband came back from the hospital, we did not wash his clothes immediately because we want to wait for a few days and then we put it near the window. So konon-kononnya nak matikan kuman lah kononnya. But, we were freaking out. So, and then much later then we took his laundry and then we wash it and then make sure it's in a hot water and all the things, try to get, I don't know, the antibacterial detergent lah, macam-macam lah. So you go to the shopping mall and try to find lots of things. and then you sanitize the house again and again and again. You know, you name it. There's Clorox, there's Dettol, there's Febreze, there's everything that you can find to help yourself. You're short of having those Dettol splashing on yourself like a minyak wangi, you know. So, but it was really scary because you are facing an enemy that you can't see.
See. Mhm.
You know, you can't see. You touch. You don't know whether there's a purple you know when they did those things,
Yes,
you,
yes.
you 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 don't know when actually it is there or not. So everything that you touch, so wherever I go, I actually bring along with me that Dettol
Sanitizer.
wipes. Dettol wipes. Dettol wipes. So imagine even in the car, when I use the car, when I had to go, I have to go alone. I don't bring my children along. It wasn't until when they are also positive that we're all in the car together lah. But once we're outside, we flock together. we try to walk together as close as possible so that we try not to infect others. This is when we had to go to the clinic again to do the swab test, and the swab test is not
Comfortable.
comfortable. No, you don't want to go through the swab test. We did it twice, thrice, or something like that, and it's really uncomfortable. You felt like you're gonna sneeze, big time sneeze, bila you terkena swab. So yeah, in the house, how you arrange your things, how you divide how you segregate within the house itself. It's not easy. Tambah lagi if there
Office.
is a
Mm.
critical illness patient, your mother, your grandfather, it is very how should I say?
High
It's
risk
I don't
patient.
a high risk patients, your
Mm.
children or your parents and stuff like that. So really,
Mom,
Correct.
yes.
ada soalan from Rushdina in the box.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Ada 5 soalan tu.
Wow.
Which one? Which one
Okay.
is it? Yeah.
Rujdina,
Tu edit.
I believe C-19 had affected all people entirely, especially towards the lifestyle awareness movements, and the main is monetary
The issues.
issues.
Yeah. Mm.
Please share your thoughts about helping these people on proposing a program on repurposing the existing building they stayed or operating in, such as business from home,
Mm.
shop attached with house, like before shop houses. Is this matter potentially helping it? Or if I can say I'm already doing it, I'm already planning it, I should be helping getting a contractor doing it next week. An office attached to the house. Okay, anyway. It's happening currently where lots of people are starting to converting their house to business purposes,
Mm.
and they need to obtain approval from local authorities. So what say you? Most, do you have any reply to this?
Okay. First and foremost, thank you for the question, and I think this is actually probably the, 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 the way that we need to approach this. First, there will be, as I said just now, you need to alert this local government that you need to allow quickly change of building use and change of land use, or repurpose some complex of buildings. Then after that, we need to work out how to do this in order to ensure that it is not detrimental to whatever is surrounding them. So these are the things that we are looking for in our guidelines, Rushdina, so that it is actually helping not just us, it's helping the people on the streets and also helping the local government to ensure that they also can get back their local authority back to action. When I say local authority, means daerah mereka lah, dia orang tu. So we need to start to do this very quickly, and we need to categorize it from whatever the category building I have there. Shops, office become home become office, home become shops. So the local government must allow this. They cannot say no. It has to be yes, but how we do it. So that's how developed nations are doing. They're doing it in this manner.
Yeah.
Everything says yes, but how do we do it? And this is where our guidelines is going to help them.
Yeah, so we are like prompting the local authority that this is what's going to happen in the future. Am I right?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
in organization chart we talk about stakeholders. So when we
Yes.
have the government, so we will rope them in as well. It's just that we have
Definitely.
to
We already
clear
have.
our,
Yeah.
our back room first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we can invite them to see it as part of and parcel as belong to all of us. Yeah.
That's right.
Because the like DBKL wants to come in. I hope Putrajaya can come in because those big ones
Big,
are the
big,
one is very crucial. We need to ensure that,
yeah.
and this is actually the way. No, because if we don't think about it, and any SOP coming, we complain, right? So we are the one using it every day. We should be doing the SOP and the design guidelines. So that will have
So
the way
indirectly,
forward. I think.
yeah. So
Yeah,
We have,
indirectly, we
indirectly.
help the
yes,
socio-economic. Yeah.
definitely. We have a statement here by Mazlin. Thank you, panelists, for sharing valuable experience. As throughout history, there's blessing in disguise in everything. That is so right.
Mm.
What is the lesson that we're here to learn from this pandemic from your personal point of view, Datin?
As I think most already mentioned about nothing to take for granted. I think we are not reinventing the wheel. It's already there. We just now to enhance it. It is much more. It's like a relearning. It's about relearning, and then perhaps with technology and perseverance and that we can actually do much better, and we hope it can be sustained. So that not a short live. Something we tend to forget. So we
Yeah.
hope this can be sustained. Um,
Yeah. Architect Mus, what
yeah,
is your
yeah.
personal opinion for this?
My personal opinion, as I find in type my poem, but I always present to seminars is this COVID-19 tells us that you have done something that
Wrong.
is actually inexcusable. So you need to do a rethinking, contemplate, reset your way of priorities, and also never take things for granted as some of the things are actually really needed as part of your life. Like for instance, we took for granted ventilation, we took for granted daylight, we took for granted fresh air. So now we need to actually merge all this into these good guidelines, design guidelines for the built environment for us to move forward from the macro size to the micro. And I think what the Datin has presented is actually for all those spectrum. And if you can not just rope yourself, if you and your group, you and your institution, you and your office, you and your establishment, whether you are contractor couple, do come in to have it. I think you know about the PAM's phone number, you know the PAM's email number. I think if I can share here, then they can know how to call and who to send the email. That at least we can have that database to start with all this. And I hope this 20 support people here will be our, I call it the baseline people, the baseline participants, and we can actually talk. Like some know certain building types. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And from my own personal point of view, as an ex-COVID patient, um, and as an architect, be very sensitive to our surroundings, observe, and see how we can improve from there. Just about in any types of building, if you go to a police station while you are waiting in line to get approval untuk merentas, and see
Yeah.
how people actually stand at the apa namanya, at the balai police, and it
Long
really we
line.
really need to think of how can we best improve this. And then you will see even in a lot of places that especially in the hospitals, the lobby in the hospital is underutilized now, but they have made use of places outside the hospital where for people to actually stand in line to enter, because at the entrances of every hospitals you have the that guard and tembak dai tu. And then so inside the hospital, inside itself, it is barren, it is empty. Only certain people slowly are allowed to go in. So what does that say? It means the outdoor lobby before you enter the building has got to be much bigger to allow for more people to wait outside, wait in line to actually enter into the room itself. The indoor lobby is already very, very limited in space. There are, because if you have to do penjarakan social while sitting, memang tak akan muat semua. So there are a lot more people outside. But also surprisingly, as one of the doctors was telling me, she has less patients now because nobody wants to come to the hospital. I said, it's good for you. It's not good because she's worried that people might not know that they are actually sick. So this is actually quite worrisome. So the place yang I nampak so far in hospitals actually memang nampak sangat perbezaan when you want to make the changes in the design. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are slowly approaching our landing. So we allow for one more questions if you have, and one more maybe thoughts from the panelists or anybody who wants to say something about this condition. How do you think we can go from here? Datin, where do we go from here?
I think what we have shown you is a roadmap, and we already informed that we are only still in the earlier part of the journey, and we really want to come out with a, a, a document which is not too stipulated strictly, but big enough to embrace the different categories, so that we're not caught point blank, in actually dealing with this. And the very purpose of the guideline is so that we can carry on doing our day to day, of course, with caution. So that is the actual purpose, so that we can still go ahead and do that, and then it will solve many other problems that is incorporated with it. For example, you talked just now on economics, also on mental well-being, mental health. It can also bring in change, especially in planning, especially in other crowded areas or density open spaces, for example. Because I think one of the things that was brought up by our Dr. Suresh from Sungai Buloh during the expert panel said, why are people putting buildings on spaces that is already open as a green lung to in a development? Why can't it be strictly meant for as a lung? Because those are actually requirement. And then because again, back to some of the structure plan not being gazetted, for example. So with that kind of well-being for the people coming in. So this little requirements that is brought up during the explanation with experts was actually has bearing on even on the both environment. Same thing with the slums, which is we're talking about like India and Sri Lanka, a lot of slums, and then here maybe talk about migrant or refugees. How are they being taken care of in the light of this pandemic itself? So there are many that we can look into, and we cannot 1% or 2% cannot do it. It has to be a multidisciplinary team, not just architects, but we start from here as architect to set the route, and we will have to bring in as many people with input so that this guideline can be of benefit to all. So the purpose is formulation, and then when if the nations are well, we hope our visitors are also well. And I thank God that the vaccines that they have arrived will also cover our migrant friends, right, and all that. So inshallah, the concept of I think last time we talked about stay safe, stay home, stay safe. Now we're taking and kita jaga kita. Now we said melindungi the other person. So I think that's it for
me. Architect Mus. Final
Okay,
words.
I remember I was saying that I will tell you the storyline of this whole ICG. So I'm going to tell you a story within this all 15 things, so people can remember that there are 15 items that we need to actually cover.
Okay,
so
if 2 minutes.
yeah. MyCG action framework really dwells with the health and well-being, which involves the resilience and contingency planning towards the emergency and medical infrastructure planning, so that we can have a proper standard operating procedure that will tell people, communicate and educate people through advocacy and also engagement. With good city planning and with good urban design review, together with building regulation review and social cultural aspects of this thing working together, the urban and rural migration will be halted, and with good built environment controls, we can have a good flow management with good space planning and usage of building technology will be able to adopt with this new reality.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have enjoyed our in-flight entertainment. We are now approaching the city of MyCG, where the local time is 5:25 p.m. At this stage, you should be in your seat with your seatbelt firmly fastened. Personal television screens, footrests, and seat tables must be stowed away, and all hand luggage stored either in the overhead compartments or under the seat in front of you. Ada rindu sangat nak naik kapal terbang. So please ensure all electronic devices, including laptop computers and computer games, are turned off. So as a summary for today's flight session, MyCG's objective is actually number 1, to localize Acacia into Malaysian context, to suit the Malaysians, the Malaysian infrastructure, laws and regulations. And number 2, to create an action model and blueprint for implementation with the built environment stakeholders. So the target is for Malaysian health and well-being in the built environment during pandemic. Remember, this is about pandemic, And number 2 is to plan Malaysian resiliency in preparedness in pandemic management for built environment. So today's flight objective is to not only share with you the gist of MyCG, but also to encourage as many architects and non-architect volunteers and all stakeholders to fly with us in creating this legacy for the sake of our future, our children's future, and our country's future. And on behalf of PAM Airlines and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this trip. Oh, you're ready with your mask on, yeah. And we are looking forward to seeing you on board again in the near future. So have a nice evening. Cabin crew, please prepare for a photo session.
Oh, kena buka.
Yes. Don't forget, we need to have our photo session. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, participants. And thanks to you, to our cabin crew. Cabin crew, are you ready for our photo session?
1, 2, 3.
Hey, how come we don't see your face?
Yeah, no face.
Okay, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We will end our webinar today.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. That was good.
Don't forget your mask. Don't forget your mask.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was good. Sembang-sembang. Siap minum kopi dah tadi.
Don't forget your mask, everybody. Kita jaga kita.
Okay, have a nice weekend, yeah.
Yeah. Full mask. Naja, are you still there?